Part 29. Become a sea squirt larva and eat a brain first. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 281. Within those golden lights are countless nanorobots. These nanorobots took the initiative to repair the body of the mechanical tiger. Seeing this, the killer whale frowned. Soon, under the gaze of the two women, the mechanical tiger once again returned to its original appearance. The mechanical tiger turned over and climbed up. It stared at the killer whale with its red metal pupils. It roared and showed a ferocious appearance. Roar! The mechanical tiger pounces on the killer whale again. The eyes of the killer whale were glowing, reflecting the appearance of the mechanical tiger. Through the special function of those eyes, the killer whale can see the energy flow in the mechanical tiger's body. At the same time, she can also see a thumb-sized nanorobot located at the heart of the mechanical tiger. Core. The killer whale moved its body, swung the plasma sword in its hand, and the long sword came down from top to bottom, directly cutting the mechanical tiger in half together with the nanorobot core in its body. The body of the mechanical tiger was once again split into two. The core of the nanobots was destroyed, but those nanobots still began to pour out of the core. When the killer whale saw this, her eyebrows slightly stretched, she slowly approached the mechanical tiger, squatted down, and took out the nanorobot core that was chopped in half from the mechanical tiger's body. As the core was taken out, the nanorobots broke away from the mechanical tiger's body and returned to the core. The nanorobot core that was cut in half by the killer whale once again transformed from the two halves back into the form of a bead as the golden light filled the air. "What is this?" Musaidi, who was next to her, leaned over curiously, looking at the golden beads in the killer whale's hands with her big eyes, and then looked at the killer whale. The killer whale stretched out his hand and handed this thing to Musaidi. Watching Musaidi take it, Musaidi said, "This is the residence of nanorobots. You can call it the residence of nanorobots. That mechanical there is this thing in the body of a living being. If this thing is not taken out of its body, it can repair itself infinitely and be resurrected. Just like," said the killer whale, "just like the intelligent mechas of the Tar civilization." Tar civilization, Musaidi was stunned for a moment. She looked at the killer whale and said, "Hasn't our time and space door to the Tar civilization been closed by us? Could it be that the people of the Tar civilization are again found another way to attack us?" The killer whale shook her head and said, "I'm not sure about that. You have to hand this thing over to your commander-in-chief." Musaidi looked at the killer whale, she was a little puzzled. "I pay? Aren't you going?" When the killer whale heard this, she smiled, looked at Musaidi, and said, "Pangaea is your continent after all. You can't always rely on others." Hearing this, Musaidi came back to her senses and subconsciously looked at the corpses on the training ground. She thought about what the killer whale had just done. It was obvious that the killer whale could kill the mechanical tiger at the first opportunity, so that not many people would die, but she did not do so, and instead allowed the mechanical tiger to kill people. Only when the mechanical tiger was about to attack Musaidi, the killer whale took action. Musaidi knew very well that the reason why the killer whale protected her was because the killer whale was friends with her grandmother, so she broke up and took action. If there were strangers in this training ground, the killer whale would probably just be a bystander. God. This concept is not unfamiliar to Musaidi. When Musaidi was a child, Guyan once introduced the killer whale to Musaidi, saying that the killer whale was a dragon god and a god. But Musaidi has always been unable to understand the difference between God and them, but now Musaidi understands. Killer whales are gods, different from her. Musaidi looked at the killer whale and nodded seriously, "I understand." The killer whale smiled and nodded, "The path of a warrior is a difficult one, so don't die too early." Musaidi was stunned. The killer whale looked at Musaidi, who was confused. She smiled. Under Musaidi's gaze, she raised her hand. There was a space-time gate in front of her. She threw the plasma sword into the space-time gate, and then turned and left. At that time, the door to space also closed. Musaidi watched the killer whale leave, but she didn't know what the killer whale meant. "Don't die too early, what do you mean? The commander-in-chief of Pangu's army has changed many times after 2 centuries. This time the commander-in-chief is a half-elf named Fang Chun, also commonly known as a goblin." Her blue eyes looked at the big screen in front of her, and the picture on the big screen made her frown tightly. There are more than 10 pictures on the big screen, and the pictures cover all areas of Pangaea continent. At this moment, groups of mechanical life forms appeared in those areas, whether outside or outside the large area. Some of the mechanical life forms outside the city wall were blocked from the outside, and some broke into the area through the entrance. The mechanical life forms inside the area had already begun to massacre the residents in the area. Fang Chun stood up and said, "Convey the order to immediately close all entrances to the area. At the same time, let all the soldiers in the area take action, arrange for everyone to evacuate to the nearest shelter, and prioritize the safety of the residents. Commander, we still have many people outside the area. If we close it like this, those people will die," a female assistant next to her warned. Fang Chun frowned, gritted her teeth, and said, "The situation is urgent. We must concentrate our efforts to protect the residents inside first. As for the people outside, let the soldiers stationed outside search and protect them." "Yes." After the order was issued, Fang Chun looked at the screen, especially the groups of mechanical life forms gathered outside the large area. She frowned, "What is going on? How did so many mechanical bodies appear?" No one can answer Fang Chun. Now Fang Chun can only choose to protect the residents first. She plans to wait until the residents are safe before carrying out a major cleanup. Thinking of the technology she has and the power of the soldiers, Fang Chun is not nervous, because in her opinion, it is only a matter of time to clean up these mechanical creatures. Although the loss will be considerable, she will win. Report. A voice came from the side, "Commander, a soldier said that he has something important to see you." Fang Chun looked at the soldier who was speaking, and she said, "Let her in." At this time, someone came in. It was Musaidi. Fang Chun looked at Musaidi, her eyes slightly lit up. "Zayadi, why are you here?" Fang Chun and Musaidi were from the same college, and she was Musaidi's senior. Since Musaidi's family was a military family, and Musaidi's grandmother Guyan made outstanding contributions, basically everyone knew Musaidi. Fang Chun naturally knew her, and had a good relationship with Musaidi. Musaidi saluted Fang Chun first, then took out the nanorobot core, handed it to Fang Chun, and said, "Commander, I'm here to give you this." "This?" Fang Chun took it and looked at it. "What is this?" Musaidi said, "I was training in the training ground before, and was attacked by a mechanical life. The mechanical life has the ability to resurrect. Later, we found this in its body. The killer whale said that this is the home of the nanorobot. With it, those mechanical life forms will be resurrected infinitely." Fang Chun's pupils condensed slightly, and her face was a little shocked. She subconsciously looked at the densely packed mechanical life forms on the big screen. "These things will be resurrected infinitely. How is it possible? This is simply a replica of the natural disaster that almost wiped out all things more than 200 years ago. Has the world-destroying natural disaster come again? Become a sea squirt larva and eat a brain first." Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 282. Natural disaster has struck again. Above the moon. Greenery. Angel Wei found the greenery. Lu Yi was sitting lazily on the pure white bed, leaning against the bedside, holding a comb and combing her long golden hair. Hearing the sound, Lu Yi looked at the Angel Wei who had entered the house and was standing at the door looking at him. Angel Wei's expression was somewhat serious and dignified. Lu Yi smiled, Why do you look so serious? Angel Wei said, something happened in the mortal world. Many mechanical bodies appeared over there. Those mechanical bodies appeared out of thin air. As soon as they appeared, they massacred all life in the mortal world. There were so many of them, just like the ones sent out by the Tal civilization. The same as the natural disaster. Now that the mechanical race has started space travel through the warp engine, only the original advanced intelligent life is left in the mortal world. If we don't take action, I am worried that the mortal life will be destroyed. Sexual blow. Hearing this, Lu Yi still had that faint smile on her face. She was not surprised at all by this incident. She withdrew her gaze and combed her long hair. I know about this. Angel Wei was startled. You know. She frowned. Then what should we do next? Lu Yi raised her face and looked at the scenery outside the window. She said, it's time for us to return the mortal world to mortals. Angel Wei was stunned. What? You mean, we want to leave the mortal world, but the problem is that now the mortal world is very likely to encounter a natural disaster that will destroy the world. If we leave, then... Wei couldn't understand. Lu Yi turned her face sideways, looked at the Angel Wei, and said with a smile, don't worry, with the technology currently available to those beings, the natural disaster won't kill them all. They can survive it. Angel Wei was still a little worried, but Lu Yi said something again, which made even Angel Wei a little surprised. This natural disaster was released by the ancestors. As soon as these words came out, Angel Wei was shocked. She looked at Lu Yi in disbelief. This. Why is this? Angel Wei was a little confused. Lu Yi said thoughtfully, life needs to grow and evolve. If you want to evolve, you cannot be content with the status quo. Although the mortal life during this period has made great progress in science and technology with our help, they still use the technology obtained from us. Many of the technologies are used to obtain material and spiritual satisfaction and enjoyment. The desires of these mortal beings are endless, Liu Yi said. If they are allowed to immerse themselves in this kind of enjoyment, then the existence of this technology will have no meaning, and their evolution will also be suspended. And this is not what the ancestors wanted to see, so the ancestors created natural disasters and stimulated these mortal beings through external pressure, allowing them to use these technologies where they really need them, so that they can truly evolve. Speaking of this, Lu Yi paused and looked at the Angel Wei. Moreover, the ancestor has told us from the beginning that what he wants is for these mortal beings to be completely independent and evolve independently. We can give them they have knowledge, but the provision of this knowledge cannot be endless. They must learn to find and solve problems on their own, so that they can evolve sustainably. The ancestor has been away for more than 200 years, and when he appears again, he releases natural disasters, Lu Yi said. According to my guess, the purpose of the ancestor is these, and what we have to do is to cooperate with the ancestor. Angel Wei's eyes lit up slightly. Ancestor, I think very deeply, but... Her eyes slowly dimmed. She said, isn't this way of evolution too crazy? Lu Yi smiled. Have you forgotten the madness that happened more than 200 years ago? Wei was stunned. Lu Yi smiled and said, today's mortal life has obtained very powerful technology. By making good use of these technologies, even if the Tal civilization comes again, they will not be the opponents of today's mortal life. Since they have become powerful, then if we face a natural disaster again, the situation will definitely be different, so don't worry. When Wei heard this, her eyes lit up and she said, you mean, they can defeat the natural disaster? Lu Yi shook his head. This is impossible. If they can defeat the natural disaster, then it will not be a natural disaster. The meaning of the ancestor releasing the natural disaster is not so simple. Wei was a little confused. Liu Yi said, tell the sisters to go back to heaven. I will tell Polar Star and them to go back to the Dragon Palace to rest and not to show up in the mortal world again. Good. After the order is issued, all the angels staying in the mortal world left and returned to the moon in the heaven. Those eastern dragons also returned to the depths of the Pacific Ocean and lived in seclusion. Almost all the gods in the entire Pangaea continent have left. Except for one, of course. That's a killer whale. The news of the god's departure shocked all the mortal beings who relied on the knowledge imparted by the god. A voice began to appear throughout Pangaea. The gods have already left. As soon as the natural disaster comes, the gods leave. Are these gods planning to abandon us? Are these gods also afraid of this natural disaster? No matter what, the departure of all the gods means that we have been abandoned by the gods. This time the natural disaster can only be borne by ourselves. This news reached Musaedes' ears. Musaedes realized that the killer whale might also leave her, and suddenly Musaedes felt a little uneasy. Feeling uneasy, Musaedes was on her way to the mecha hangar, and on the way she saw the dragon-horned girl waiting for her halfway. When she saw the dragon-horned girl, Musaedes' eyes lit up slightly, and she leaned over and said, "Killer whale, you didn't leave." Looking at the dragon-horned girl, the killer whale smiled, "I still have things to do in the mortal world, so I can't leave." Musaedes blinked curiously, "What is it?" The killer whale smiled, "I promised a friend something before, so I need to finish that thing. As for what that thing is, it's a secret." Musaedes said, "But it's so strange. Now many people in the military camp are saying that God is going to abandon us. What's going on? Are you gods really going to abandon us?" The killer whale crossed his arms and looked at Musaedes with a smile, "There are all kinds of people in this world. Some people know how to be grateful, while others are very ignorant. In the past 2 centuries, we have helped the lives of the world and taught them all kinds of knowledge and technology. If we leave now, it will be considered abandonment." Musaedes was stunned. She touched the back of her head awkwardly and said with a smile, "I don't need to think about it, but..." Musaedes looked at the killer whale and said, "Why would the gods leave at this time? It happened to be when the natural disaster came, so it's no wonder that others would make associations." The killer whale said with a smile, "Because this natural disaster is a test for you, and we can't interfere with this test. Also, 2 centuries of technological development, I think it's time for mortal life to be independent. It's not a good thing for children to rely too much on their parents." Musaedes only understood half of what she heard, and she said, "I don't understand, but it doesn't matter." Musaedes retracted her gaze and followed the team to the mecha hangar. While walking, she looked at the killer whale beside her and said, "I have to drive the mecha to the periphery of area for a large cleanup. By the way, the top management plans to use large nuclear weapons outside the area to carry out a large-scale cleanup. Do you think it will succeed?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Become a sea squirt larva and eat a brain first. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 283. When the killer whale heard this, she smiled, "I don't know about this, we have to wait and see the result." Musaedes hummed and looked ahead, "I heard that there was a natural disaster more than 200 years ago. That natural disaster almost caused the extinction of all life on Pangaea continent. Later, at the most critical moment, it was the Creator who took action to solve the problem. The last natural disaster was the Tal civilization. I don't know where the source of this natural disaster came from." Musaedes said, "However, we are not like us more than 200 years ago. I believe that these mechanical organisms can be easily eliminated with our technology." She is very confident. Looking at Musaedes' expression, the killer whale smiled and said nothing. "Who is the source of this natural disaster? Basically all angels and all Eastern dragons know it. As a member of the Eastern Dragon, The killer whale naturally knows it, but she does not intend to tell these people the answer. Boom! Suddenly, a loud noise came from the air. The whole ground was shaking slightly. Hearing this loud noise, Musaidi and the killer whale looked at the source of the sound, and a huge mushroom cloud could be seen in the distance. That was the noise caused by nuclear weapons. Has it started? Musaidi said subconsciously. It has indeed started. Nuclear bombs have nuclear radiation, and nuclear radiation will pollute the environment and kill living organisms. This time, it is not a nuclear bomb, but another kind of nuclear weapon, which can be called a hydrogen bomb. Hydrogen bombs use nuclear fusion, which does not produce the kind of nuclear radiation that occurs in nuclear fission. The radiation of nuclear fusion does not have a greater impact on life than nuclear fission. In the civilized world where Chenmu lived before, there were also hydrogen bombs, but the hydrogen bombs at that time were not pure nuclear fusion. There was a small nuclear bomb in the hydrogen bomb, and the small nuclear bomb would be detonated before the hydrogen bomb was detonated. Once the nuclear bomb exploded, the hydrogen bomb could obtain a temperature sufficient to cause nuclear fusion, so that a nuclear fusion reaction could be carried out. Therefore, in the civilization where Chenmu lived, hydrogen bombs had long-term and high-intensity nuclear radiation. But now it is different. After the natural disaster more than 200 years ago, mortal life has been looking for weapons powerful enough to eliminate natural disasters, and nuclear materials have directly entered their field of vision. With the knowledge given by God, they have developed hydrogen bombs that can carry out nuclear fusion without the need to place small nuclear bombs. This hydrogen bomb can almost be used as a conventional weapon. This hydrogen bomb is what the current Earth civilization has prepared for possible natural disasters in the future. Therefore, people gave it a new name, called the Dawn hydrogen bomb. What Musaidi saw at this moment was the mushroom cloud produced by the explosion of the Dawn hydrogen bomb. At the same time, in the headquarters, everyone, including Fang Chun, held their breath and looked at the big screen in front of them. The big screen captured the situation inside the satellite through the satellite camera in space. In the picture, billowing smoke whistled up, and a huge pit was left in the place bombed by the Dawn hydrogen bomb. The scorching breath dyed the entire land red, and the ground had turned into magma. Now the fog was thick and it was not so clear, but soon it became clear. Seeing this scene, Fang Chun breathed a sigh of relief. All the life machines that were originally in the target have disappeared at this moment. The temperature generated by the Dawn hydrogen bomb after the explosion is very terrifying. No known substance can withstand this terrifying temperature. Even the natural disaster created by Chenmu cannot be stopped. The Dawn hydrogen bomb was left by our ancestors to deal with natural disasters and resist large-scale lethal weapons. If this thing can work, then we are not unable to deal with this natural disaster. Fang Chun suddenly became confident. All the warriors of Pangu continent started to move. They were wearing mechas and holding high-tech laser weapons, and began to clear the mechanical life forms in the area. If the mechanical life forms gathered outside were too dense, they would be bombed with hydrogen bombs, and then sent warriors to clean up. Although people did not react because the mechanical life forms appeared too suddenly, 2 centuries of technological development have given them the power to fight against natural disasters. Soon, the natural disaster will disappear. On the other side, Chenmu was watching this scene. Seeing that the mechanical life form created by his atoms was about to die, Chenmu couldn't help but get interested. I underestimated them. Chenmu said, "System, among the known cosmic materials, is there any material that can withstand the high temperature of hydrogen bombs?" The essence of hydrogen bombs is nuclear fusion. Nuclear fusion can be large or small. The small one can be very small, and the big one is a star. The system gave an explanation. Among the currently known materials, there are many that can withstand the temperature inside a star, such as shield silver, shield gold. Among the materials we know, there is no material that can withstand the temperature inside a star, but the universe is very large. In such a large universe, everything that does not exist is not absolute. Chen Mu said, shield silver. Chen Mu used atoms to create and constructed a sphere made of shield silver. Chen Mu looked at the sphere through the atomic vision. The atoms in the sphere are unknown to Chen Mu, but the distance between these atoms is very close. The density is extremely high. The appearance of this shield silver is similar to silver, but it is very hard and full of toughness. It is estimated that diamonds are not so hard. Okay. Chen Mu said, atomic creation. Reconstruct all the remaining mechanical life forms and replace their materials with shield silver. Speaking of this, Chen Mu paused, he thought for a while, and said, equip them with sharp claws and teeth, so that they have the ability to tear apart mechas. Received the order, start construction. The headquarters once again issued an order to use the Dawn hydrogen bomb. As the Dawn hydrogen bomb bombed a gathering place of mechanical life forms, Fang Chun, as the commander-in-chief, looked at the screen seriously. She wanted to see the familiar picture. I wanted to see the picture of all the mechanical bodies dead. But the picture in front of her made Fang Chun stand up. In the picture, the ground had melted into magma, but on top of the magma, the mechanical life forms bombed by the hydrogen bomb were unharmed. They seemed to be provoked and roared unhappily at the fighter planes in the sky that were bombing hydrogen bombs. Roar. Fang Chun's pupils were trembling, how is this possible? At this time, a voice came from behind Fang Chun. Report, B9 team encountered 3 natural disasters while performing a mission. The 3 natural disasters have strong defensive capabilities, and our weapons have no effect on them. Now all 5 members of B9 team have died. Report, F3 team encountered 5 natural disasters while performing a mission, and their weapons lost their effectiveness. All 5 members were killed. Report, A7 team encountered 1 natural disaster while performing a mission, and their weapons lost their effectiveness. 3 people died and 2 escaped. Various reports of deaths came in. Fang Chun's pupils trembled, and her face was full of indifference. She gritted her teeth and said, convey my order, all soldiers outside the area, all withdraw to the large area, and the large area opens the energy shield. Yes. Fang Chun looked at the big screen in front of her with some despair, looking at the lively mechanical life on the screen, she gritted her teeth and said, what is going on, will these things evolve? At the same time, Musaidi, who was performing a mission, had trembling pupils. In front of her, her 4 companions had fallen to the ground, turning into cold corpses. On their bodies, the calamity beasts were gnawing at the corpses in the mecha. One of the calamity beasts raised its head and stared at Musaidi. The mecha suit that Musaidi was driving was already badly damaged, and her face was half exposed. The blood on her fair cheeks was not sure whether it was her own or her companion's. Noticing the calamity beasts, she suddenly grasped the plasma sword in her hand. At this moment, Musaidi finally understood what the killer whale meant by don't die too early. Become a sea squirt larva and eat a brain first. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 284. Looking at the mechanical life flying towards him, Musaidi's eyes were filled with only despair. What is going on? She had no idea what was going on. Musaidi has been on 9 missions. In these 9 missions, she has to face these mechanical life forms, but through the perspective instrument installed on the mecha, she can easily observe the enemy's nanorobot core. You only need to use the plasma sword in your hand to cut the opponent in half and then take out the opponent's core. In this way, the battle can be easily resolved. Moreover, the attack power of these mechanical life forms is not strong. The soldiers in Musaidi's team are protected by mecha suits, and their attacks cannot penetrate the mecha. Therefore, although we encountered these natural disasters 9 times before, we dealt with them easily. But this time, the mechanical life forms encountered in the 10th mission had extremely high body hardness. The plasma sword could not hurt them, and their attacks became extremely powerful, and their hard mechas were directly torn apart. All his companions are dead, and now only Musaidi is left. Faced with such a natural disaster that planned to attack her, Musaidi was already desperate. It's impossible to escape. Suddenly, a beautiful figure appeared in front of Musaidi. When Musaidi looked at it, her eyes lit up slightly. The girl with dragon horns held a silver sword and waved it with her bare hand. The flying mechanical beast broke into 2 pieces. Her body flew out, and the 6 mechanical beasts in front were chopped into 2 pieces by the long sword in the hand of the dragon-horned girl. After she finished dealing with the mechanical beasts, she looked at Musaidi and smiled, "Are you okay?" Musaidi took a look and said, "Killer whale." Before she could say anything more, her body went limp and she fell down, losing consciousness. Soon, 3 months passed. Musaidi sat on the bed, leaning against the headboard, looking at the scenery outside the window, wondering what she was thinking. "Are you okay?" came a voice from the side. Hearing this voice, Musaidi looked at the speaker and saw the killer whale standing there, looking at Musaidi with a smile. Musaidi looked at the killer whale. She slowly withdrew her gaze and looked out the window again. "It's not good. In just 3 months, 2/3 of humanity died. Area F fell, Area D fell, there were corpses everywhere outside. I can see the piles of corpses when I close my eyes now. Made of mountains. I can't imagine that so many people died in such a short period of time. But, we can't do anything. We can only huddle in the energy shield and watch the people outside being slaughtered by natural disasters at will." The killer whale looked at Musaidi's expression and said, "This is a real natural disaster. A real natural disaster cannot be defeated." Musaidi turned her face slightly and looked at the killer whale. She said, "But, you can defeat it?" The killer whale looked at Musaidi and said nothing. Musaidi continued, "I saw the weapon you used when you rescued me. That weapon can easily kill those natural disasters. I hope you can give us the manufacturing method of that weapon so that we can deal with it. Those are natural disasters." The killer whale looked at Musaidi and she shook her head. Musaidi frowned, Why not? You obviously have the technology to fight them, why don't you let us use it?" Hearing this, the killer whale felt a little helpless. She looked at Musaidi and said, "This natural disaster is completely different from what it was more than 300 years ago. They cannot be destroyed, and no one can destroy them. I can teach you the technology for making that weapon, but even if you kill dozens of natural disasters with the technology I gave you, the natural disasters will evolve again and become more powerful, until my weapons are ineffective against them." This. Musaidi was stunned. She couldn't believe it. How is this possible? This is impossible. How could she believe this? The killer whale said, "Have you forgotten? Forgot how they went from being wantonly slaughtered and cleaned by you to what they are now? Plasma weapons have lost their effect, and hydrogen bombs have lost their effect. This is their evolution. Then, what should we do?" Musaidi was a little desperate, her eyes were a little hollow. The killer whale smiled and said, "You are a warrior. This question does not require you to think about it. Fang Chun, she will find the answer." Musaidi's eyes trembled slightly, and she looked at the killer whale. "Answer?" "Yes, the answer." The killer whale nodded slightly. At the same time, Fang Chun sighed. Evolution. When Fang Chun heard the report given by the researcher, her expression became more solemn. "You said, these things will evolve." Researcher Reg nodded slightly and said, "Yes, we have been observing their every move using satellites. These life forms will devour all life forms, including their own kind, and then evolve. They will evolve to become more powerful, with sharper claws and larger body shapes bigger. I think if these mechanical life forms continue to evolve, one day we will not be safe even if we hide behind the wall. Reg gave the answer. Fang Chun's face darkened slightly. She said, besides this, do you know the origin of these things? Reg replied, they come in two ways. Two kinds. Fang Chun looked at Reg. Reach said, these natural disasters will split every once in a while, changing from one end to two ends. At the same time, every once in a while, a group will appear out of thin air, as if they were created out of thin air. Fang Chun frowned. After Reg said this, he paused and looked at Fang Chun. Fang Chun noticed Reg's expression and said, is there anything else you want to say? Reg said, I have an idea. This idea may be a bit unscientific, but, according to ancient records, the planet under our feet has life, and we were also created by the planet under our feet. It is our creator. The dragon god said before that our creator does not want us to stay on this planet. He wants us to leave this planet and go to outer space. Now, with the emergence of these natural disasters, it feels like the planet is repelling us. Fang Chun frowned. Reach said, the evolutionary abilities possessed by these natural disasters will take a certain amount of time to break through our energy barrier. As long as the energy barrier is breached, we will become extinct. This is like a countdown. It seems to be the countdown given to us by the Creator. It wants us to leave this planet. Fang Chun was silent for a long time, then she nodded, I understand. At the same time, Chen Mu doesn't care whether these guys understand or not. If they don't understand, then they deserve to be extinct. If they understand, then they will naturally choose to leave the planet and go to other planets to survive and develop. Of course, Chen Mu prefers the latter. Of course, if they choose the former, Chen Mu doesn't care that much. At this moment, Chen Mu has determined his current form. He became a star with a planet surrounding it. Or, rather, he became a planetary system. Everything, including stars and planets, is Chen Mu now. But Chen Mu was not satisfied, he wanted to evolve again. For this reason, he chose to go to the black hole in the center of the galaxy that he had not completely swallowed before. Become a sea squirt larva and eat a brain first. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 285. Chen Mu's figure appeared above the accretion disk of the Milky Way black hole again. He looked at the familiar sea of fire below, and he retracted his sight and looked in the direction of the Milky Way black hole. The Milky Way black hole can give him too much energy, which can allow him to evolve directly from a planet to a star at one time. If he swallows the Milky Way black hole again, what can he evolve into? Chen Mu is very interested to know. Thinking of this, Chen Mu used his control ability to control his body and approached the black hole. Stop suddenly, a voice sounded. Hearing this voice, Chen Mu stopped. Because he saw a figure appear out of thin air in front of him. This figure looks very similar to humans, but the difference is that his skin color is gray-blue and his pupils are blue. He looked at Chen Mu with a serious and solemn expression. Seeing this guy, Chen Mu's heart moved. What is this? You know, this is on the accretion disk of the Milky Way black hole. How did this guy appear out of thin air? How did he fight against the gravity of the black hole, and how did he fight against cosmic radiation without any equipment? He noticed Chen Mu's eyes and said, I come from the star Bohr in the Milky Way. You can call me Ming. Bohr is far from the outer edge of the black hole group. Bohr is the planet we depend on for survival, but due to its location, it is often threatened by the black hole group. The existence of the black hole at the center of the Milky Way binds the black hole group and keeps the planet where I am in a stable environment. However, more than 200 years ago, you swallowed the mass of the black hole at the center of the Milky Way, which reduced the gravity of the black hole at the center of the Milky Way and caused the black hole group to deviate outward. I hope you don't swallow the black hole at the center of the Milky Way again, Otherwise our planet will be in danger of being swallowed by the black hole. The mass loss of the black hole at the center of the Milky Way will inevitably affect the entire Milky Way. The closer the civilization is to the black hole at the center of the Milky Way, the stronger the impact it will suffer. In our Milky Way, there are countless civilizations that we don't know about, including some super advanced civilizations. And Balstar is one of the advanced civilizations. This was the first time that Chenmu was actively found by such an advanced civilization. He subconsciously used the information database ability to read the other party's information database. But an unexpected situation occurred. The target has set an information lock in its own information database, and it is impossible to read the information. Chenmu's heart was shocked. Information lock? Ming frowned and looked at Chenmu. It is very impolite to peek into other people's information databases. I hope my friends can be more careful. Chenmu's heart moved, and he couldn't help but look at the gray blue-skinned man in front of him. He never expected that the information database could be locked. For the first time, the system ability lost its effect. This situation should not have happened, but it did. And this also proved something that Chenmu had always guessed. The system he had was actually a product made of high technology. When facing the same high technology, or a more advanced technological civilization, its power would be weakened. Since advanced civilizations can use technological power to create the so-called instant adaptation ability, other advanced civilizations can naturally do it. The man in front of him was obviously one of those advanced civilizations. Chenmu said, "As far as I know, my swallowing doesn't consume much matter. This is much less than the matter swallowed by this black hole every day, right? Even if I swallow like this, it is unlikely to have any impact on it or you." Ming was slightly startled when he heard it, and he looked at Chenmu with a strange look. He said, "The Milky Way's center black hole is the key to the normal operation of the Milky Way. In any case, we don't want you to touch it again." In other words, even if Chenmu's swallowing cost not much mass, Ming's civilization did not want Chenmu to touch the Milky Way's center black hole. This made Chenmu unhappy. He frowned and looked at Ming. "Are you looking for trouble?" Chenmu's actions obviously would not cause any losses, but he still wanted Chenmu to stop. "Isn't this looking for trouble?" Ming frowned. "You are the one looking for trouble." Chenmu's eyebrows stretched slightly. "Then there is nothing to talk about." After the voice fell, Chenmu used the control ability. As the control ability was used, Ming also realized that something was wrong, and he subconsciously raised his hand. When he raised his hand, his palm slowly turned into dust. His whole body turned into dust that was invisible to the naked eye in an instant, and then flew into the black hole at the center of the galaxy and was swallowed by the black hole at the center of the galaxy. Without the guy blocking his way, Chenmu continued to fly into the black hole at the center of the galaxy. "Your behavior is declaring war on us, so the Boer civilization accepts your declaration of war." A voice sounded in Chenmu's mind. It was the voice of Ming, who had just died. Chenmu's heart trembled suddenly, and he frowned. Not dead? The whole body was disassembled into atoms by the control ability, but he didn't die. People understand humans as two kinds of composition, one is the body, and the other is the soul. In fact, humans do have two kinds of composition, one is the body we are familiar with, and the other is the information library. The information library is where all human information is stored. Advanced civilizations can separate the information library from the body. The body is turned into a carrier. When the body dies, the information database can still run independently. They call it a consciousness body. Ming's body died, but the consciousness body is still there. In other words, he is not dead. From just now to now, the communication between Ming and Chenmu has been through the consciousness body to spread consciousness. So, even if the body is gone, Ming can still communicate with Chenmu. At this moment, for Ming, Chen Mu's move is to declare war on the Boer civilization. And this time, the other party launched an attack. Chen Mu has not come back to his senses yet. He felt his whole body sinking directly. It felt like suddenly, the whole person was drowning, sinking directly into the sea water. Everything around him suddenly changed. Chen Mu came back to his senses, but found himself in a room. The room was very white, with white walls and glowing walls. In this room, you can see the sofa in the living room. The most surprising thing is that Chen Mu also saw someone sitting on the sofa opposite him, and that person was Ming, who should have died. Chen Mu raised his hand, looked at his hand, and then looked at the guy named Ming. He looked around. Ming sat on the sofa, looked at Chen Mu, and said, "From now on, you will be locked up in this prison of consciousness forever, and you can never leave." Chen Mu glanced at Ming, he ignored this guy, and asked the system. "System, what happened to me? Where is this place?" The voice of the system sounded, "You were attacked by consciousness, your consciousness was forcibly pulled away from your body and pulled into this place. This is a building made of consciousness." Chen Mu understood it all at once. This is what the guy said, the prison of consciousness. The attack method of advanced civilization is indeed beyond the understanding of ordinary people. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Become a sea squirt larva and eat a brain first. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 286. The body and consciousness are separated, and the consciousness is imprisoned. If there is no response, the consciousness will be imprisoned in the consciousness prison and will never leave. So what should be done next? How can I leave this prison that is used to bind consciousness? Chen Mu's eyes fell on Ming in front of him. Ming looked at Chen Mu and said, "You can decompose my body in an instant. The antimatter technology you have is higher than my civilization, but you decomposed my body without attacking my consciousness. This means that your understanding of consciousness seems to be inferior to my civilization. This consciousness prison can lock you here forever. If you promise me that you will no longer attack the Milky Way black hole, I can let you out." The consciousness is actually an information library. Chen Mu looked at the room in front of him. In other words, is this prison in front of him a prison made of information? Use the information library. With the use of the information library, everything in front of Chen Mu changed again. The whole world turned into blue light. Chen Mu's body was made of blue light, Ming's body was also made of blue light, and the surrounding rooms also turned into blue light. If you look closely, you can see that these blue lights are made of very small 0 and 1 numbers. 0 and 1 are called source code. Everything in the world can be represented by 0 and 1. In order to allow users to understand these information libraries, the system uses 0 and 1 in binary source code to represent this information. Chen Mu looked at Ming again, looked through the target information library. The target has set an information lock and cannot be browsed. Chen Mu said, "Forcefully destroy the information lock. Since there is a lock, it can be destroyed." Destroying the target information lock, the target information lock has been destroyed, and the browsing begins. The system's voice sounded in Chen Mu's mind. In an instant, all the target's memory and other information poured into Chen Mu's mind, and Chen Mu saw it all in his eyes. At this moment, Chen Mu understood why the guy in front of him attacked him. The black hole at the center of the Milky Way does acquire energy every moment, but because the matter near the black hole at the center of the Milky Way has been almost absorbed, the black hole at the center of the Milky Way can actually acquire very little matter and energy. Even if Chen Mu does not swallow much matter and energy now, if Chen Mu swallows it crazily without restraint, the black hole at the center of the Milky Way will be destroyed, and the surrounding civilizations will also be affected. This impact is very huge and may lead to the destruction of civilization. Civilizations like Ming's belong to advanced civilizations. They have powerful technology that can ensure that the Milky Way will be destroyed and they will not die. But the reason why Ming did this is to protect their homes. People can live forever, but if the black hole at the center of the Milky Way is gone, their homes will definitely not be able to support themselves. This is why Ming attacked Chen Mu. Chen Mu now has two choices. One is to go to war with the Boer civilization. If he wins, he can swallow the black hole at the center of the Milky Way. The second is to compromise, and this person will let him leave this prison. The problem is that in Chen Mu's view, even if he swallows the black hole at the center of the Milky Way, other civilizations will be destroyed because the black hole at the center of the Milky Way disappears. So what? If Chen Mu wants to evolve, he needs to devour matter to obtain evolutionary energy. The greater his evolution, the greater the impact on the Milky Way. Of course, Chen Mu's body is currently a yellow dwarf star, which does not have much impact on the Milky Way, but what about in the future? Will he do nothing because it will affect others? Stop evolving? This is impossible. He needs to evolve, so he needs to devour the Milky Way black hole. If he doesn't, he has to devour other celestial bodies. When he wants to devour other celestial bodies, the civilizations near those celestial bodies come over and say that this will affect me, so he will continue to give up? Impossible. So, Chen Mu looked at Ming in front of him. I will swallow the Milky Way black hole. Ming frowned. Then you can wait to be locked up here for the rest of your life. Really? Chen Mu said casually. Use the information database to erase the information prison. It cannot be erased. There is an information lock in the information prison. Forcefully crack the information lock and erase the information prison again. Cracked, erasing. The information database has the ability to browse, modify, and copy the information database. Information locks are also locked with dark information, which means that the information library also has the ability to destroy information locks. The prison of consciousness is made up of information, and it will be gone if it is erased. Accompanied by the sound. The prison made up of consciousness disappeared in an instant. Chen Mu's consciousness returned to his body. Ming in front of Chen Mu was still in the form of a consciousness body, flying in the air. His pupils trembled, looking at everything around him, and his eyes were fixed on Chen Mu. You can actually destroy the prison of consciousness. Chen Mu looked at Ming and said, not only can I destroy the prison of consciousness, I can also erase your existence. The voice fell. Ming's body, which was made up of blue data of 0 and 1, began to disintegrate. He raised his hand and looked at his slowly disintegrating hand, his face full of disbelief. Soon, his body was completely disintegrated and disappeared without a trace. The body is the carrier of consciousness. When the body is gone, if the technology is powerful enough, the consciousness can be preserved and people can continue to live. If technology is not strong enough, consciousness will dissipate and become dark information that people cannot see. These dark information will be reassembled at a certain moment, become another consciousness, and be loaded into another new life. Chen Mu's information library ability can modify and erase these dark information. It's just that Chen Mu has always faced low-level civilizations and has not encountered high-level civilizations, so when he first dealt with Ming, he only destroyed the other party's carrier. When the consciousness is erased, then a person is truly dead. Chen Mu retracted his sight and looked at the galactic black hole in front of him. He flew into the galactic black hole. With the ability to adapt instantly, he adapted to the gravity generated by the galactic black hole. He opened his consciousness vision and came to the singularity in the middle of the galactic black hole. Just like before, he raised his hand and held the madly rotating singularity. Hand clenched. The swallowing ability was used. Countless golden lights instantly swallowed Chen Mu's entire body. A familiar voice sounded in Chen Mu's ears. The progress of the evolutionary energy is being obtained. The current progress is 1%, 2%, 10%, 20%, 50%, 99%. Congratulations on obtaining 100% of the evolutionary energy progress. Start evolving. Warm TI. Become a sea squirt larva and eat a brain first. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 287. The Sun in the Solar System is a yellow dwarf star. The yellow dwarf star in the universe has been undergoing nuclear fusion since it was conceived, and the material in the body has been ignited, so the material in the body is always being consumed. Just like the Sun in the Solar System, it is consuming every moment. The main material consumed in the yellow dwarf is hydrogen, but when the hydrogen is consumed, the yellow dwarf will collapse and its volume will be compressed. However, the helium element compressed to a certain limit will face the terrifying pressure and temperature. Nuclear fusion will begin, which we usually call helium flashover. When the helium flash is activated, the yellow dwarf star will expand and become a red giant star. The size of the red giant will be many times that of the original Sun. After expansion, it can even reach the orbit of the original Earth. And this process is equivalent to the process of biological growth and aging, and cannot be called evolution. I don't know how much time has passed. Chen Mu's consciousness returned. Did it succeed? Chen Mu subconsciously opened his consciousness. After opening his consciousness, the picture he saw made him slightly stunned. This is a star emitting dazzling blue-white light stood in space. The mass of this star is 6 times that of the previous Sun, and its radius is more than 10 times larger than that of the Sun. It looks huge. The light that Chen Mu can emit at this moment, if placed in the solar system, would have illuminated all the planets in the solar system. Blue star Chen Mu recognized his identity. When the star's mass exceeds 2.5 to 40 times that of the Sun, the light emitted becomes extremely hot and bright. From the outside, the light displayed is blue-white light. A star whose mass exceeds 2.5 to 4 times that of the Sun and still emits blue light is a blue dwarf. Chen Mu's current size and mass can no longer be described in terms of a blue dwarf star. He is now a blue giant star. Congratulations on completing your evolution, you have obtained the evolution reward, and all your abilities have been upgraded again. Congratulations on completing your evolution, obtaining the evolution reward, and controlling time. Chen Mu looked around and found a planet surrounding him. Because Chen Mu's mass is too huge, the planet orbiting him is relatively far away. Ancestor. There was a sound. Hearing the sound, Chen Mu came back to his senses and subconsciously looked at the source of the sound. Angel Green appeared in space, and she was looking at Chen Mu in front of her. Chen Mu built a new body, turned into an angel, and flew in front of Lu Yi. Lu Yi looked at Chen Mu and smiled, "Ancestor, welcome back." Hearing this, Chen Mu looked at the angel in front of him who was wearing a black robe and smiling confidently. He felt a mature aura from Lu Yi, which was somewhat different from the Lu Yi in his memory. The only thing that never changed was that the way she looked at Chen Mu was still so respectful. Chen Mu said, "I have been sleeping until now. Is it too long?" Liu Yi smiled respectfully and said, "The last time Liu Yi saw the ancestor was 1030 years ago." Chen Mu said, "What's going on over there on Earth?" Natural disasters are raging in the mortal world. During this time, most advanced beings choose to take spaceships and fly away from the mortal world to find other galaxies. Only a small number of lives remain to fight against natural disasters. Lu Yi looked at Chen Mu with those beautiful eyes and said, "Just as you, the ancestors, thought at the beginning, they can already use warp engines to travel at faster than light speeds." Chen Mu became a little curious, "Is there anyone left on Earth?" "Yes," Lu Yi said, "when I wanted to leave the mortal world, I was divided into 2 groups. One group advocated sticking to it, and the other group advocated leaving. Most of them advocated leaving, and only a small part stayed." Chen Mu said, Not dead. Not dead, Lu Yi said. They all gathered in 3 areas, using nuclear fusion energy as an energy shield to resist the invasion of natural disasters, and also invented sonic weapons to destroy the nanorobot core of the mechanical beast. Hearing this, Chen Mu said, so, natural disasters can no longer restrain them. Lu Yi said, that kind of sonic weapon can only destroy the original form of natural disasters. Some evolved natural disasters cannot be destroyed yet. All they can do now is to hide in the area. Either leave the earth, or die in the ravages of natural disasters, Liu Yi continued. Hearing this, Chen Mu looked at Liu Yi. What's going on? Something is wrong. Chen Mu felt a strong sense of discomfort. No, the same. Very different. Chen Mu knew that Liu Yi had great respect for life. When she saw elves being chased by wild beasts, she would take the initiative to help those elves. When she sees an elf being bullied by an orc, she becomes angry. But now when Lu Yi was talking about human beings being massacred by natural disasters, and that those humans who stuck to the earth would die, she had a slight smile on her face. Anyway, death was not like life. Although life and death did not matter to Chen Mu, after all, he himself was not a human being, the change in the greenery made him feel something was wrong. Chen Mu said, "Are you indifferent to life?" Lu Yi was slightly startled. She looked at Chen Mu and smiled. Lu Yi is not indifferent to life, but loves those lives deeply. Life needs to evolve, and evolution requires a price. One cannot break out of the cocoon and be reborn as a butterfly. Bugs have no meaning in existence. Helping them evolve and let them grow is what God needs to do. She looked at Chen Mu and said with a smile, Lu Yi is relatively stupid. At first, Lu Yi thought that as long as he saved the life in front of him, it was equal to love. Later, Lu Yi saw everything that his ancestors had spent thousands of years doing. Only through the things you did, ancestor, did Lu Yi realize that the true love of God is to allow the life he created to truly grow. Chen Mu looked at Lu Yi, whose eyes were shining with admiration. Chen Mu fell into silence. He could directly tell Lu Yi that the reason why he did that was not for those lives, but for himself. But seeing Lu Yi worshipping him so much, he also thought that as a boss, he had to establish a good image in front of the workers. He didn't bother to say anything more. He said, "Your understanding is very thorough." The green eyes lit up slightly, and there was a touch of joy on his face. Chen Mu didn't intend to pay attention to Lu Yi. He was just trying to study the new abilities he had acquired first. Suddenly, Lu Yi said, "The ancestors, the nine-tailed fox and the killer whale, both of them really want to see you." Hearing this, Chen Mu was slightly startled. He looked at Lu Yi and said, "Orca." The nine-tailed fox wanted to see him, that was for sure. That little guy wanted to see him all the time. As for killer whale, this term has not appeared in Chen Mu's ears for a long time. Lu Yi nodded, "Yes, the killer whale that was with you before. She was recreated by me using atomic creation. Later, she had nothing to do and turned into the appearance of an eastern dragon. Follow Dongfang Long helps those mortal beings together. She has always wanted to talk to you." Oh. Chen Mu thought for a moment, then nodded slightly, "Okay, take me to see her." Become a sea squirt larva and eat a brain first. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 288. Your principle is not to interfere in our affairs, but for me, you have broken your principle many times. Musaidi, who had already grown white hair, was lying on the hospital bed. When she was dying, she called Hu Whale, and then said this to the killer whale. The killer whale looked at the old man with wrinkles like the bark of an old tree in front of her. She just watched quietly. Musaidi's voice was full of weakness and powerlessness. "You said before that the reason why you stayed in the mortal world and did not leave with other gods was because you promised one person and one thing, but you have never told me that something. But I have already guessed, is that thing, My grandma asked you to take good care of me, so you broke your own principles many times and saved my life. The killer whale looked at Musayede's eyes half closed and extremely weak. She was a little helpless, but she could only nod. She said, Guyen is the first friend I met in the mortal world. She is very special. Speaking of this, the killer whale looked at Musayede, you are also very special. Musayede smiled, are you special? Are you stubborn? The killer whale shook his head, to me, staying in Pangaea and fighting against natural disasters is a very stupid thing. It is against God's will, but it also proves that human beings have their own thoughts. It's also a sign of progress. It's not stubbornness, it's just a different choice. She looked at Musayede, you know that staying in Pangaea continent is a fatal thing, but you still stick to your principles. This is unique about you. Musayede smiled, I have been thinking whether my persistence is too stupid or too ignorant. Now that I hear your words, I feel relieved. After Musayede's old voice fell, Musayede slowly closed her eyes. Looking at Musayede's posture, the killer whale felt helpless. Suddenly, the killer whale opened its eyes. She looked at the familiar ceiling. She looked around and found that she was lying on her bamboo bed. Dream. Life is too short, the killer whale said softly. It seemed like just yesterday that Musayede died of old age, but in fact more than 800 years had passed. For the killer whale, there are endless nanorobots in her body. These nanobots will always repair the killer whale's body and make the killer whale immortal. But this is not possible for mortal life at the moment. The technology they possess is not enough to allow them to create such nanorobots. Although genetic technology has progressed, it can only extend the lifespan of life, but it is not enough to achieve immortality. The killer whale once watched Guyen grow from young to old and die, and saw Musayede from birth to old age. Their changes make the killer whales feel the passage of time and the fragility of life. The killer whale wore a black robe and left the bamboo house. After leaving the bamboo house, there is a vast bamboo forest. The place where she is on a small island. The island is surrounded by the ocean. Under the ocean, there is a dragon palace, and the group of eastern dragons live in the dragon palace. The killer whale has remained in human form for too long. She is used to this form, so after returning here, she made a bamboo forest on a nearby island and built a shelter for herself. But what followed was confusion and confusion. She didn't know what to do next. She is immortal without stepping into the mortal world, and can hardly feel the passage of time. Day after day, year after year passes, and she lives in confusion every day. Can't find any meaning. At this time, the killer whale heard the noise. She raised her face and saw a figure appearing in mid-air. He was looking at the killer whale. The killer whale looked at this person, her eyes glowing. Angel, male angel. The killer whale was a little confused at first, but then she seemed to think of something, her eyes lit up slightly, a smile appeared on her beautiful face, and her body moved. When Chen Mu saw the dragon-horned girl in front of him, he jumped directly into his arms. Chen Mu was stunned. He looked at the dragon-horned girl holding her neck. The dragon-horned girl raised her face, looked at Chen Mu with her big eyes, and said with a smile, "Welcome home. Go home." For killer whales, home is where they have companions. If your companion is wandering outside, the place where you stay is your home. The killer whale thinks that he is Chen Mu's companion. When he comes back, he naturally goes home. Chen Mu looked at the orca's excited and happy expression, and he couldn't help but think of the time when he was still a killer whale and was entangled by this talkative orca. He couldn't help but smile and said, "Okay." He held the very small little killer whale in his arms. He landed on the ground, folded his wings, and put her down. When the killer whale landed, she looked at Chen Mu with her big bright eyes and said, "That day, you just left without telling me. You were really bad." Chen Mu naturally knew which day the killer whale was talking about. He didn't think about anything at the time, how could he think so much? But, it doesn't matter, now I can see you again anyway, the killer whale said with a smile. I heard a lot about you from Qinglong. They also said that you created them and that you are them. The creator. The killer whale laughed and said, you are so awesome. When you were a little killer whale, I thought you were very powerful, but I didn't expect you to be so powerful, the killer whale said with a smile. Then, the green spirit created this body for me and let me with the ability of eternal life. Now I can live for a long, long time, so that I can be by your side forever. The killer whale stretched out her hand and held Chen Mu's arm. She looked at Chen Mu and said with a smile, now I see you again. If you want to leave, take me with you, okay? Don't always leave me behind. Before Chen Mu said a word, she had already started bombarding him wildly. It seems that her body is not in the form of a killer whale, but her talkative nature has not disappeared. However, at this moment, Chen Mu did not feel the same depression and disgust as before, but a sense of familiarity. Too long. How long has it been since no one talked to me like this? Chen Mu could no longer remember the time. Now hearing what this talkative man said again, Chen Mu felt familiar. He looked at the joyful dragon-horned girl in front of him, and smiled. One thing, you are wrong, he was in a good mood, so he wanted to tease her. Huh, she tilted her head and looked at Chen Mu. What point? Chen Mu said, I have always been by your side and never left. Huh, the killer whale was stunned for a moment, and she was a little surprised. Chen Mu said, before, I was the planet beneath your feet. You live on the surface of the planet, and you stand on top of me every day. He looked at the killer whale and said, I am the star now. As he spoke, he raised his finger and pointed at the sun in the sky, which was the light emitted by the blue giant star. Because the Earth is so far away from the blue giant star, the light looks like the sun we've seen before. He looked at the killer whale and said, now that you are bathing in my light, how can you possibly say that I have left you? When the killer whale heard this, she immediately became happy. She smiled and said, so you never left me. It's great. She looked at Chen Mu with a trace of joy in her eyes, but when her joy changed, she felt a little lost. But, you are by my side, but I can't talk to you. I want to talk to you. When Chen Mu heard this, he paused slightly. This talkative guy wants to shoot, but can't find the target. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Become a sea squirt larva and eat a brain first. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 289. Chen Mu didn't want to be pestered by such a chatterbox. He said, don't you have a few friends in this world? If you want to talk to someone, you can find them. The killer whale said, Qinglong and the others are old-fashioned. Talking to them is like talking to an old grandfather. It's not fun at all. Well, Yinglong is fun, but Yinglong always follows the North Star and runs around. I can't disturb them every day. In the mortal world, I do know a few friends, but their lifespans are too short. In the blink of an eye, they all die of old age. She looked at Chen Mu and said, you are the only one who can have a good chat with me. Chen Mu was sure that the chatterbox in front of him really had no suitable target for his conversation. At this point, the killer whale paused. She looked at Chen Mu, she smiled and said, I have a lot to tell you, I spent a lot of time, and encountered a lot of things. Do you know the friend I met in the mortal world? Her name is Guyin. For the sake of mankind, she can even let people take out their heads and put them in the mecha. And her granddaughter Muziade. The killer whale spoke. Chen Mu looked at the killer whale, watching her talk about what happened to her during this period of time. Strange. Chen Mu did not feel the boredom before at this moment, but inexplicably calm. For a long time, Chen Mu always felt light, and there was a sense of panic that he could not step on the ground. But at this moment, he felt very stable. It has been too long, and the memory of the killer whale is a long, long time ago. After the dusty memory was awakened by the killer whale, the familiar feeling was very interesting. Chen Mu raised his face and looked at the sky. Through the sky, he could see the sun. The yellow dwarf star before had been replaced by the blue giant star at this moment. There is a scientific saying that when people explore cosmic life, they will choose to avoid blue giant stars. Because in the eyes of many people, it is impossible for life to exist in the planetary system of blue giant stars. Under normal circumstances, this idea is correct. The mass of blue giant stars is too large, so the gravity is also very huge. If the planet gets too close, it will be swallowed by it. Because of the large mass, the star activity is very intense, emitting strong stellar winds and strong radiation at all times. Even if the planet is located in the habitable zone of the blue giant star, it is impossible for life to exist in the face of the crazy stellar activity of the blue giant star. Under normal circumstances, it is indeed impossible for life to exist near the blue giant star. Therefore, when scientists are looking for cosmic life, they will choose to avoid blue giant stars. The reason why the planet under Chen Mu's feet can still have life is because the weakened instantaneous adaptability plus the planetary transformation ring outside the Earth resist the stellar winds and strong radiation of those blue giant stars, which allows mortal life to continue to survive. You've been away for a long time. What are you going to do with those mortal lives? Just leave them here, the killer whale's voice came. Chen Mu came back to his senses, but he found that the killer whale was already far away from him, and she was looking at Chen Mu with her curious big eyes. Chen Mu looked at the killer whale and said, "What do you think?" The killer whale pursed her thin lips and said, "I feel that they are so pitiful. Can we help them?" Hearing this, Chen Mu looked at the killer whale and thought about it. Although the killer whale has lived for a long time, and she has always respected Chen Mu's opinion, Chen Mu doesn't want them to interfere in human affairs, so she won't interfere. But she is kind and compassionate, so she naturally feels that those mortal lives are pitiful. Naturally, she asked this question, and also revealed her pity and sympathy for those mortal lives. In fact, this is indeed possible. Chen Mu can use the life on this planet as a base. This base is used to produce highly intelligent life, and then wait for a certain period of time, and then let the intelligent life in the base leave the planet in batches, go outside to develop, and collect evolutionary energy for themselves. If all the life on this planet is destroyed now, these lives will have to be recreated again, and they will have to be taught the use of various technologies again, which is obviously a headache. However, Chen Mu always feels that using life to obtain evolutionary energy is a bit unreliable, because up to now, the evolutionary energy he has obtained from these lives is still very little. But it shouldn't be. The abilities given to Chen Mu by the system are all used. The later the evolution, the greater the role those abilities can play. The ability to obtain evolutionary energy with life cannot be garbage. Therefore, Chen Mu still plans to continue to cultivate these lives first to see if they will bring him surprises later. Thinking of this, Chen Mu looked at the killer whale. "Do you want to help?" "Yeah," the killer whale nodded. Chen Mu nodded slightly, and said, "From now on, the life of this planet will be created by you, operated by you, and cultivated by you." The killer whale was stunned. She looked at Chen Mu, a little confused. Chen Mu said, "I will share all my abilities with you, you will be the main god of this planet in the future, and you will cultivate these lives." "But, Angel and the others, and Dongfang Long and the others?" The killer whale looked at Chen Mu, her eyes shining. Chen Mu said, "Next, I will create 6 more planets next to the blue giant. Angels and eastern dragons will be the main gods of these planets. I want them to create life on these planets. Speaking of this, Chen Mu said, I guess they will be busier than you. The killer whale's eyes were shining, and she smiled, so, this is your purpose. Chen Mu looked at the killer whale's eyes, my purpose. Well. The killer whale smiled and said, you created this planet, and then let the angels and eastern dragons manage it together. The purpose is to let them learn these management knowledge, and then let them have the ability to create and cultivate life. Now that they know how to manage life and how to cultivate life, you let them become the creator gods and create life. Sure enough, Lu Yi is right, you are so great. The killer whale looked at Chen Mu with admiration in his eyes. Chen Mu subconsciously touched his nose. Really? In fact, the idea of creating other planets to cultivate life was just something that Chen Mu had just thought of. He just felt that the ability given to him by the system would not pit him, so he took a gamble and expanded the farm. But how can it be, great? The killer whale's eyes sparkled, and he said, I have always been looking at this planet in front of me, and I always thought that these lives in front of me were everything. When I saw the ravages of natural disasters and the killings of natural disasters, I even thought you were cruel. Until now, I know that what you see is the endless birth of life, what you see is the birth of endless new life. She looked at Chen Mu with admiration. Life can be endless, but the evolution of life makes life meaningful, and this is your purpose. Become a sea squirt larva and eat a brain first. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 290. Chen Mu wants to create planets. For the former Chen Mu, this was not a simple matter. Because Chen Mu used to be a planet, even if Chen Mu's atomic creation at that time had a planet-level speed, it was extremely difficult to create a planet and it would take a very long time. But it's different now. Now Chen Mu is a blue star. His atomic creation ability has also been upgraded, and his current mass is about 8 million times the mass of the original Earth. For the extremely huge Chen Mu, a planet is not as big as a sesame seed in his eyes. With his atomic creation ability, it is naturally easy to create a planet that is not as big as a sesame seed. It didn't take long. There are 6 more planets around the blue giant. Including the planet Earth, there are currently 7 planets orbiting the blue giant and orbiting it. Because of these 7 planets, except for the Earth, some are too far away from the blue giant, and some are too close, and are not in the habitable zone. Therefore, Chen Mu created a planet modification ring for all of these planets to modify the internal environment of the planets and make them suitable for the survival of life. After that, the original Earth changed its name and became Pangu. The killer whale became the main god of Pangu planet, and she was responsible for managing Pangu planet. Yinglong and Polar Star left Pangu and came to the location of the first planet, becoming the main gods of this planet. They seem to like humans very much, so the highly intelligent creatures they created are humans. The main gods of the second planet are the Eastern dragons. They combine their own appearance with that of humans to create a dragon-human civilization similar to that of killer whales. The third planet is Pangaea, where the killer whales live. The main god of the fourth planet is the nine-tailed fox. She likes the demon clan, so she created the half-human and half-demon clan as the civilization there. The main gods of the fifth, sixth, and seventh planets are angels. The main god of the fifth planet is Green, who creates the appearance of angels in the fifth planet based on the image of angels. The main god of the sixth planet is Wei, who created the elf civilization. The main god of the seventh planet is the angel Qing, who created the Zerg civilization. When Chen Mu observed the development of civilization on these planets, he could understand the first 1 to 6, but after seeing the Zerg civilization created by Angel Qing, he was a little curious. Qing, how did you create so many bugs? Liu Yi also noticed Qing's approach. When Qing heard this, she laughed and said, "The ancestor said that we can create life according to our own preferences. I think those mechanical insects are quite powerful. However, they lack wisdom, so I just want to create such a civilization. Give them wisdom and see if they can develop well. Lu Yi looked at Qing, and she couldn't help but smile. Frankly speaking, I can't physically accept these things. It seems that you have always seemed obedient, but in the end you have an extremely powerful and perverted heart. Qing blushed and said, I just think there must be some special civilization. Aren't you trying to create some mechanical civilization? A voice interrupted the conversation between the two people. Liu Yi and Qing looked towards the source of the sound and saw the killer whale looking at them curiously. The killer whale said, the mechanical race created by the ancestors in the past seemed quite powerful. Hearing this, Liu Yi and Qing looked at each other. Liu Yi looked at the killer whale and smiled, the meaning of life lies in evolution. The mechanical race is indeed powerful, but the reproduction of the mechanical race is replication. They cannot carry out sexual reproduction. Reproduction, therefore, is a life that does not have the ability to evolve, and is meaningless to us. Looking at the killer whales, they still look a bit confused. Liu Yi explained with a smile, the reproduction and evolution of life will lead to genetic uncertainty, and this uncertainty is evolution. It sounds complicated, but in fact, it's the simplest truth. Through reproduction, genes will change. In the reproduction of human beings for several generations, there is a chance that an existence like Einstein will appear. Since Einstein can appear, it means that there may be more intelligent beings. This is what evolutionary uncertainty creates. Through reproduction and evolution, the technology possessed by life will become more and more powerful based on these evolutions. There is no upper limit to evolution. According to the knowledge base, as long as life is given time and environment, then life can break through the norm, or break through all the knowledge in the knowledge base and grow into an existence that is difficult for even us to understand. Speaking of this, Lu Yi looked at the killer whale and said with a smile, this is the meaning of life evolution, and the mechanical race. There is no way to carry out that kind of evolution, so the existence of the mechanical race has no meaning. Hearing this, the killer whale suddenly realized, and she said, so that's it, then those mechanical tribes, aren't they very pitiful? Lu Yi was startled, then she smiled, they are not pitiful. The meaning of life lies in evolution, and they do not need meaning, so they are not pitiful. Oh! The killer whale understood. Lu Yi turned his face slightly and looked at the blue giant star in the distance. The meaning of life was taught to us by our ancestors. Only a being as great as our ancestors can understand all of this. Lu Yi withdrew his gaze and said, in the past, we would not have known about the evolution of life at all. Yes, the killer whale smiled, he is indeed very understanding and great. Yes. At the same time. In fact, Chen Mu didn't think too much. Chen Mu judged from the ability given by the system that the system would not pit him, and cultivating life must be useful in the future. Of course, this use is useless at present. Whether it is to create humans, Zerg, or mechanical races, and let them run to other planets to collect evolutionary energy for themselves, it is estimated that it will take millions of years, which is not as fast as Chen Mu swallowing a black hole himself. Therefore, Chen Mu took an indifferent attitude towards the races he created, no matter what kind of races they were. He is currently cultivating these lives, and the only thing he wants now is raise a group of pets, and watch the development of the pets when he is free, that's all. As for what these pets can bring to him in the future, it is worth looking forward to. Chen Mu subconsciously opened his consciousness vision. At this moment, the radius of his consciousness vision has reached a distance of 1 light year that shocked Chen Mu. He can see his entire face, not just the blue giant. He found that his body was not static, but moving. The entire blue giant was moving rapidly in one direction, and around him, 7 planets were orbiting him. In the past, Chen Mu's conscious vision was not large, so he could only see that he was rotating, but it was difficult to feel that he was moving. Now Chen Mu finally had the opportunity to see his full appearance and see what he really looked like when he was moving.